Alright, what is going on, guys? Today we have a pretty special unboxing. This is one of those things you just have to call a big mistake. But this is the 1 to 400 scale resin kit of the TR-6 Inle. From Advance of Zeta, and I think it's just one of those things, you ride or die. And this thing, I just could not resist. So let's see, here in the box we've got obviously some packing peanuts, a very large heavy piece here which I think is the base, and then we've got, this is by Model Bingo, by the way, 1, 2, 3, 4 smaller boxes. And I had to check to be sure, wrapped up in all the other bubble wrap and stuff. We've got some more metal pieces and stuff, so we'll take a look at all this stuff more closely here in a moment. Also got the metal rod, big metal rod in here. It's going to be used for holding that up. Now, just if you're also getting this, make sure you look through everything in the box. So I'm just digging through everything here in the box and just finding these other things, so just make sure you don't take out just the boxes there first and then just kind of toss the box away, because there was those other bits in there. But alright, so there's what we got. Now I wish that they would have packaged this all into one nice big box together, especially when you're tucking a kit at this price range. It would have been nice, yeah, for them to just put everything just in one nice presented box. But anyway, so wrapped up in there we have a couple things here. We have this, which I believe is brass square rod here, and this is quite heavy, and then this one which looks like it's maybe aluminum or something. Very nice shiny rod here, so I'm guessing that we're going to be using both of these. And then as we saw, we've got these other metal bits in here, some metal pins, and we've got some magnets in here as well, and obviously a big, very large Allen wrench, which I'm guessing that's just going to be for the other main screw for that, it looks like. So got some hardware, and then we got the main base here, which looks to be like made up of a couple different parts here. So the main top part is just this very shiny chrome plate for that, which is very nice. Then that's basically just a thin bit which is just sitting on top of this really big, heavy, dirty looking thing. So this is going to be the bottom of that, and then at the bottom of that you have this kind of like spongy material, so that'll just keep it from sliding around anywhere. So this big thing seems like just rubber, solid plastic, or like this has like sand or something in it. There's a cap here on that, so maybe this is just like filled with sand or something. It feels really solid though. But anyway, this big thing, that is going to serve as the base. Alright, then let's get into the meat of it and check out the boxes here. Now the boxes, as far as I can tell, they're not numbered or anything, like 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm guessing, hoping in one of these there's the actual instructions, but it's basically just boxes full of resin parts. So with it being a pretty large and pretty complex kit, we're going to have just a lot of parts. This looks to be a lot of the larger parts, of which the detail on them look pretty nice. It's kind of hard to tell looking through the camera. Let me take a closer look here. Let's just pop out a few pieces so we can take a nice close look. So you can see the detail on here looking pretty nice. Here we have the gate that you'll have to just slice off there, but just the edges, everything, you have this nice beveled edge over here on this part, and just the panel lines in there all looking pretty nice and sharp there. So I mean, it's just going to take a little bit of sanding, and you already have the pinholes already set in here for the pins that we have included. I'm assuming you'll probably need to pin some other stuff that where we don't have pins included, but we have a bunch of these already included in here with this, so you already have those, and they're already cut out, so you don't have to worry about cutting anything. So a bunch of the larger bits are all going to be, they're all just basically set, ready to pin straight up already. So here we have one of the larger parts in here as well, and again, just really nice detail inside there. Looking good so far. That is box 1. So let's move on to box 2. So the Inle, for those of you who are unaware, as I'm cracking into the next box here, I'll just throw up a couple of photos just so you guys can get a good reference. It's basically a large mobile armor from Advance of Zeta, which at the core has the Inle 2 Ra, which is a form of the wound wart, there at its core. And then it also carries 6 KR2s on it as well, which we've got in here also. Those are what the magnets are for. So it's a pretty impressive thing, and obviously having this in 1/144 scale would be gigantic. If you know how big the Heisenthle 2 Raw is. But so 1/400 scale, what we've got here is still going to be quite large. But the Gundam itself in the center, is only going to be maybe around that big or something. We'll see once we find the parts. But I have come across the manual here, so we've got that. We've got just a little note here from Musega and Hobby. This is who I ordered it from. It's not a sponsored or anything. I wish they would have sent this to me as a sponsored thing, but they did not. This is just something I did buy. But anyway, Musega and Hobby, I do recommend them though, and if you want to buy this, I would recommend using their shop. Always good service, and Nick, the owner, is a really cool guy. So here we have the manual. And there's a close look at the Gundam there. So some nice color photos here. That's always nice to have. Not really like the best photos. I mean, the quality of them is fine, and it's a lot better than what you get in some kits. But just having some nice full color photos is good for reference. You've got ones there of like the full kit. You can get an idea of how that's going to look. And then you have some detail shots as well that'll help just kind of for painting in the details. That is, and of course, as always, assuming that you want to go for the official color scheme. But here, once again, is the Gundam. So even though the Gundam this is probably pretty close to the actual size of that, but you can see it is still going to be pretty detailed even at that small size. Now we have to find the parts. And we do have some water slides in here as well, 2 sheets of those. This one, which looks, it's on like your typical blue backing, and it's just a bunch of caution markings, a lot of those. We also have some Xeon logos and some Titan Test Team logos here. It looks like they're at the bottom. So these are probably just like generic things that they include with a lot of Advanced Zeta stuff. And then this one with a bunch of awesome Advanced Zeta logos on here. Now, obviously, I'm not going to use a bunch of conflicting logos on this same kit, so I'm going to have a lot of leftover Advanced Zeta waterslide logos here from that. So that's also a perk of buying a really super expensive kit. But it looks like here in this box, as far as the parts we got included with this one, we got a couple of really large parts, and then a bunch of really small parts in here, and a bunch of really tiny parts. So it looks like these are maybe some of the parts for the Gundam itself. It looks like, or those are the really tiny rail, no, that's a blade rifle. That's what it is. Let's take a look at those, because that's a really tiny part, and it looks like the detail on it's really nice. Let's get a closer look. First thing though, here we have taped to this cardboard backing just to help keep it safe, is our V-fin part for the Gundam's head. So super fine, sharp little detail on there, so it's nice that they protected that. And we've got a bunch of these, I think probably 6 or 7 of these, just because I think there's one carried by each of the KRs, and then I think maybe 1 or 2 for the actual Gundam itself, something like that. I don't know, but I'll have to check to be sure. But this is the very tiny blade rifle. If you're familiar with how big this is on the Woundwort kit, which recently, like the HD version of the Woundwort also included this, as you can see it's a little bit warped, so I'm going to have to straighten that out a little bit. I assume for a lot of these parts, it's kind of just how it goes with long, thin pieces of resin, they get warped like that. But just a little bit of bending to that to straighten it out. But still, the detail on it looks fantastic, so it looks really good. And yeah, we've got at least 6 of them included in here. Here's like some other parts of the Gundam. You can see this would be like for the shoulders, that part that goes on the shoulders of that guy. And again, it's just got the tab there at the end, just cut that off, simple enough, and all the detail, everything looks really sharp on there, so it's looking good. Come to think of it though, it's probably a good idea that they package these tiny parts in with the really big parts, because the really big parts can kind of help serve to kind of protect those. And I realized, looking at the manual, we forgot to look at the actual construction part of the manual, so we'll just go back to that. We do, it looks like, also have, this is just like parts for the Gundam itself, looks like, just for the construction of that. So here you have all the parts laid out for that. These will be all the parts that you need, including that V-fin part, which we have, which I guess is that one there. It's seeing like a side view of that part. But you have all the parts here laid out, and it's just showing you how those go together. But yeah, detail painting on something this small is going to be quite hard. So you can see there's a little bit of this, doesn't look like it's painted like really all that well, but I'm not going to blame them too much. As we saw, it's pretty tiny parts on that. So it's going to be going inside something much huger. So then it's just going through the rest of the parts. You can just kind of get an idea of the parts here. I don't really know what to call this section. It's sort of like the head section of the mobile armor anyway. So that's just kind of like up at the top of that. It has this really cool kind of V-fin sort of thing going on there for that, for like the main body. And this would be kind of like the main unit where everything else is kind of plugged onto. So this is going to be where you're going to have a lot of the load. it's being bore here by this section. And so you can see, it looks like in the photos here, they're also showing where the pins are. So they've got the pins already installed into these parts over here, it looks like. And these would be kind of the main parts, I guess, that go around the tube, which is holding it all up. And here, the parts here are for the KR2. So it looks like just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. Basically, that's all that make up the parts here for these 6 KR2s, which are stored here up underneath the kind of wing sections, sort of, on the back of that. And then the kind of back skirt section here, which is this big round section. And then another section here, this is for the kind of side bit. And then other parts, kind of lower, sort of like legs section, sort of that. Other parts. Aha! So this is kind of interesting. So first off, you have a layout of just all the tools and everything that should be included here. And those little hardware bits. And also these bits, I saw this when we were just looking at those small parts. I was wondering what these were. These are for this little detail. So if you're familiar with just advanced Zeta designs, they often have this little kind of like detail. I don't know really what to call it, sort of like a tube sort of detail, like on the edge of certain parts. And so yeah, that's what these are. These are for that. So you've got those little parts just already like that. So I guess you could like paint this whole part, and it's cut up, each part cut out little tubes, and it just shows you where to stick them around on the kit. So the pictures aren't super clear, but I guess, you know, once you're actually building it and everything, you'll find these sections where you can stick those little tubes. So if you didn't want to use these, of course you could use just some other plastic tubes or something like that in replacement for those parts. Just get polystyrene tube. I'm not sure what the dimensions are for those, the thickness of that, but I'm sure you can get that. But again, anyway, this is just a reference photo. So let's move on to boxes 3 and 4, which I guess is just going to be just more parts basically at this point. As we've already had the manual and the water slide decals, the only thing really left is just more parts as far as I know. But let's take a look and see. So yep, just a bunch of parts. I mean, and it's not like it's like it's a lot of parts, that for sure, but a lot of really big parts too, because this kit, yeah, is just going to be quite big. And you can see definitely some warping going on with these, so we'll have to straighten some of those out. So no doubt there's a ton of parts, but honestly, compared to like other Resin Advanced Zeta kits that I've seen, the actual number of parts is probably comparable. Because usually, even like the 1/44 scale ones have a ton of parts too, because they have a ton of really small little detail parts. This bag definitely has a lot of parts in it though. So anyway, this one does have a lot of parts. A lot of them are large, and so I don't know, you get just a ton of stuff in here. And yeah, I mean, just looking at everything, the detail on everything looks good. I'm not seeing like a lot of flash on some of the parts or mold lines, anything like that. Really too much. I mean, it's just going to be, some parts are going to need to be straightened out, and it's just going to be cutting off the pegs, doing some sanding on some areas, but overall looks very, very good. I've got to say, very impressed. Now, the trouble is going to be actually building this kit, and so just for how expensive and massive this kit is, fortunately the kit itself, unbuilt, doesn't take up a whole lot of space. I was worried that I was going to have like this huge box in here taking up tons of space in my room. Luckily, it's not really all that much. It's just these 4 little boxes here and some extra little tools and stuff. So, but either way, this is not something that I want to be sitting on forever. So I do actually want to, you know, do my best to try to actually get this built sooner than later. So I'm not saying that I'm going to be starting work on this right away, or even next week, or even next month. But in the nearer future, definitely want to get to work on this. But yeah, that is it for the 1/400 scale Inle. It's very intimidating, I gotta say, but at the same time, I feel like, you know, once I get cracking on it, just because of how good the parts look and you have all the pins and everything, it's all already here for you. So I'm sure I'll encounter problems, but it's I don't know, I've kind of mixed emotions about it. It's very intimidating, but at the same time, I feel like once I get going on it, it's really not going to be that big of a thing. It's just going to take a long time to get it put together and painted and everything like that. And there's probably going to be, even though there's a lot of nice colors, not a lot of part separation there, I'm sure there's still going to be a good amount of just masking and things like that required just for the painting process. And I'm not going to do anything too special, like I'm not even going to bother thinking about like weathering it or anything like that. I'm just going to do just a straight up clean paint job on it. So that's the plan anyway. We'll see how it goes. If you guys have questions or comments about this, feel free to leave those down below. It's a pretty unique thing, so I want to share the experience with you. It's just something I'm just gonna have to fit into the schedule, but something that I definitely plan to work on. So obviously that's why I bought it. I wouldn't buy something if I didn't think I was ever going to work on it, even though at this point I probably have more than I'll ever be able to finish in my lifetime. We can still try anyway, right? That's the fun in it. So that's it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.